You remember yourself this period vividly?
Yes, I do. I was born in Germany in 1926, Kassel. My parents came from Poland after World War I.
You are from Polish origin. You are not originary
no,
German Jew.
My father and mother both came from Poland. They married in Germany, and I was born there. In 1933, I had to attend already at school. I could not go already to a Gentile school. I had to go to a Jewish school. But in the town where we lived...
What was the town?
Kassel.
Kassel.
Yes, in Hessen. Jews already were at those times separated from non-Jews. We attended a small school which was really actually in the beginning a synagogue, and then they rebuilt it and made a school out of it, where all Jewish children had to go there. And only we had there Jewish teachers, and that's how I started my school years. The teachers were not the quality you would have wanted to have it in the beginning, because already they were separating among the students, among the Jewish students, so-called, I was called as a child already ein Ostjude, because my grandmother spoke Yiddish, and I would come to school sometimes with expression in Yiddish, which I was laughed at.
By who?
By the children, by the teachers.
You mean by the Jewish German children?
Right, and by the teachers.
Yeah.
And you had a certain feeling already that you are somebody else. You're not enough you were a Jew, but you had a feeling you were somebody else, that you were a special minority in the minority, so to say. Yes. You would feel that where a teacher would have to punish somebody, he would do so, especially if you were an Ostjude, and some of them would come out openly out and tell you so.
Well, how did they say this? As an insult?
Well, there are ways for a teacher to say things. Sometimes it was an insult, and sometimes it was meant seriously. In other words, the children would call you names, and there were, like in any school, you find groups of children, certain teams, like they have here sometimes. Certain identities, groups, I would say. Children from East European, they would play among themselves, and German Jewish children would play among themselves. Even if it would come on a Saturday on a holiday, the, so to say, Ostjuden would have their separate synagogue. They would go to services there, and the German Jews had their separate synagogue.
Yes, but I think it's true. There was a despise, mostly in Germany, among the German Jews towards so-called Ostjuden.
Right.
But I didn't know that for a child it was such a
well, as a child,
experience.
You felt it, because the mentality right away, you were always pointed out. Here comes the Ostjude. Even I spoke fluently. My father, my mother, they all spoke and read fluently German. And somehow, somewhere, they always were pointed out. You are separate. You don't belong. All the problem starts because of you.
It's what they said.
That was the feeling and the opinion. In other words, the German Jew felt there that nothing could happen to him, but the people from the East, the Ostjuden, They poured all the problems. They had not the manners. They would not have the. They could not speak so well German. They would not have the courtesy, how to approach people. They would not. They would do things differently than people were used in Germany. And that came quite a conflict, and as a child I felt it very deeply. And as I grew older, I felt it more and more, and the friends I had, and the people I would get in contact with, were mostly people with the same background as I am.
You mean Ostjuden?
Right.
Yes. And was there a change when the German Jews started themselves to be segregated completely?
I would say there really was no change, because the German Jew still felt at the time that he served in World War I, and maybe had the Iron Cross, or he went to college, or so to say university, or he was a businessman. He felt that nothing would happen to him, but only to the people they came afterwards.
What was the job of your father?
My father was a businessman in Germany.
Yes.
He had 2 clothing stores, and we lived quite comfortable.
Yes.
Yes.
And in spite of this, you felt this segregation among the Jews, I mean.
Right. I did feel all those segregation as a child, yes.
And did you know Ostjuden in Hanover?
Yes. Oh yes. Well, it's similar. I went to a non-Jewish school when I was, I guess, at the age of 5. I was also born in 1926. And after having been there 2 or 3 years, they started a Jewish school in Hanover. And my father wanted my late brother and myself to attend there. But as far as the Eastern Jews were concerned, and generally speaking, that was true. It just happened to have been my late father. Was very, very close with all of them. We were very well known in Hanover. And all our friends, or most of them really, were Eastern Jews. In fact, that's more or less...
It's not what he...
Well, he was from a different city, but
Yes.
that's exactly what he said. In fact, our society was started with a close friend of mine who lived next to us, also Eastern Jews. She meanwhile died.
You mean the Riga Ghetto Society?
Yes, because she had come and visit us, and she was also one of those, what they called in those days, Eastern Jews. And when they were deported, a lot of them had come back. That was the same with you, I suppose. Before they went back in their own homes, they first went into our apartment. But in generally speaking, unfortunately, that has happened in Germany.
Yes.
Absolutely true. And I guess we as children did not feel that German the way my father or my parents did. To us, we were Jews. But I think the way that most German Jews, including my father, felt, well, what's going to happen? We were in World War I. They never expected this to happen, because they really would have emigrated earlier. Especially my family, we could have, if my father would have wanted to.
Yes. But Mr. Kempinski, you and your family, you were deported too. Before the Kristallnacht.
Yes, we were deported since my parents both came from Poland, and in Germany we were stateless. It meant we had no Polish, we didn't have a Polish nationality, and really we did not have the German nationality. They took us and they deported us to Schneidemühl, which is on the Polish border.
Yes. And can you explain why this happened?
How it happened?
Yes. And why?
Why it happened?
Yes.
Well, the German police said that all people which are not of German origin or not German born cannot live anymore in Germany, and since they feel we are not Germans, we do not belong, could not live in Germany. Yes. They came to us one evening and they said within 1 hour we have to pack. We just can take 1 suitcase. And they marched us to the train station. And I believe we were about 500 men, women, and children.
And this was when exactly?
This was in 1938.
Yes, in the summer of 1938.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And they put us on a train with guards, police, as they marched us from the homes to the train station.
And
First,
they gave you 1 hour delay, 1 hour
1
warning.
hour warning.
They
Right.
came suddenly.
They came suddenly, right. And we had to assemble, and just one suitcase, as I said before. And they marched us to the train station. People on the street would look. Police was marching in front and in the back, so nobody could escape. And we were locked in a train, and it took us about 2 days to reach Schneidermühl, which is on the Polish border.
At this concentration camp, the Germans starved, clubbed, and burned to death more than 4,000 political prisoners over a period of 8 months.
I'm Eli Rosenbaum. I've worked in the Justice Department Criminal Division for 30 years now. And the work that I've done has led people to refer to me in common parlance as a Nazi hunter. When we started this work, way back in 1979, the United States had an abysmal record in these cases. It had been known literally for decades that Nazi criminals came to the United States. The US government had prosecuted hardly any of them, but we have been more successful in the last 3 decades than any other country on the face of the earth in pursuing justice on behalf of the victims of Nazi crimes. I always say our World War II cases are the ultimate cold cases. All of the crimes took place many decades ago on the other side of a vast ocean, so it's very much a search for the proverbial needle in a haystack. Over the years, we've investigated hundreds and hundreds of suspects. We have one active case, that's Yaakov Palny in New York. He served at the Travnicki SS Training and Base Camp, really a school for mass murder, and he trained on live Jews at the adjacent Travnicki Jewish labor camp. And in the end, everyone who was held there was massacred. We got his United States citizenship revoked. We won an order of deportation, but none of the 3 countries to which he was ordered alternatively deported back in 2004 has yet agreed to take him. Yaakov Palny still lives in New York City. It's really an outrage.
The Justice Department has been trying to deport you, and I wanted to talk to you about that.
The John Demjanjuk case is one of the most important cases that we brought, and I'm sure it's the best known of our Nazi cases. Demjanjuk took part in the mass killings perpetrated at the Sobibor death camp in Nazi-occupied Poland during World War II. He was deported to Germany, and in 2011, following a full trial, was convicted on 28,000 counts of accessory to murder. Time and again, the best evidence against our defendants has been one or another captured Nazi document that they themselves signed. In the case of Alexandras Leleikis, we had extraordinary incriminating documents. I had questioned Leleikis myself, and he denied having participated in anything related to the Jews.
Once again, Mr. Leleikis, Government Exhibit 10 is an order that you issued, is it not?
Wir lånar oss nummer stashen. Du har sagt oss hur det just det väntar. The answer is the Fifth Amendment.
But one of our brilliant staff historians found in archives documents signed by Leleikis sending Jews to the killing squad, where some 50,000 Jewish men, women, and children were shot to death. I think the Michael Kolnhofer case was the most unexpected development in our cases. Reporters went out to interview him, and he came out with a gun through his front door and actually began shooting at reporters. When Kolnhofer was then rushed by the police, he looked up at them and in his broken English said what turned out to be the last words he ever uttered. In broken English, he said, "What for you shoot me? I not Jew." So I guess old habits die hard. We still pursue justice in the Nazi cases, in large part because there are still survivors of Nazi barbarism. It's not fair that survivors in our country should have to share their adopted homeland with their former tormentors and, in some cases, the killers of members of their families. There is the so-called biological solution, as Simon Wiesenthal used to say, to the cases of fugitive Nazi criminals. We are, as we have been for decades really, in a race against the Grim Reaper, and increasingly the Grim Reaper wins. The most important reason to continue pursuing justice in the Nazi cases is to send a message to the would-be perpetrators of war crimes and crimes against humanity in the future that what remains of the civilized world will pursue them for as long as it takes, even if it takes the rest of their lives, and even if they flee thousands of miles to places like the United States.
After the war, where we were still living there, I came running back into the house, crying. They called me a dirty name. They called me Jid. I'm not a Jid. They told me, they didn't tell me that I'm a Jid. They said it's not a dirty name and don't worry. But my father took me to synagogue the first time. the synagogue, I passed the church, and I crossed myself. And also on the way to church, I met a priest. I kissed his hand. I was properly trained. He took me to Simchas Torah. First time to go to synagogue, he picked me. You can imagine this was Simchas Torah, the year of liberation, which is, but still, Jews celebrated life. And I liked it. And they sang and they danced because it was Simchas Torah. And a Russian officer came over to my father and asked him whether I was Jewish, because I was blonde, like blue-eyed then, and said to my father, said, yeah. And he said he'd traveled thousands of kilometers as a Russian officer, didn't see a Jewish child at this age alive. And he said, could he take me to dance with him? Took me on his shoulders and he danced with me. And I came home and I said to my mother, I like the Jewish church.
We danced round and round in circles as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning, filling up the shul with song. Though we had no Sifrei Torah to clutch and hold up high, in their place we held those children, Am Yisrael Chai. We danced round and round in circles as if the world had done no wrong. From evening until morning, filling up the
How many people would lay down their lives for a stranger?
Got it.
Albanians would. Hello, I'm Norman Gershman. Very pleased to meet you. Your family rescued this Jewish family under the Nazis. You're Muslims, is that correct? It was this collective agreement amongst the people to save people.
Emri im është Recep Hoxha. Babai nuk vetëm dëshironte që për hebrejt të kryente veprimin që I mbeti si kështu pa realizuar.
למה ההורים שלי עשו את הדבר הזה? זה מנקר לי עד היום.
For 60 years he's got these books. But they must be returned.
Edhe në kulturën tonë, themi kur t'jepet një amanet, që thuhet një detyrim, pesa është edhe tek kjo, tek fjala e dhënë.
The journey was almost a year to find this Jewish family.
Kur një njeri jeton gjatë me këtë ide dhe që erdhi u afruam në zgjidhje. U afruam drejt zgjidhjes, besoj. Është shumë e bukur.
I'm Dr. Willard Shum. I'm retired from SUNY Oswego. We're in the Safe Haven Museum at Fort Ontario on the lake in Oswego. This house was the gatehouse for the Army post that was here, and later became the administration headquarters for Joseph Smart, who ran the Refugee Center, and the office for Ruth Gruber, Dr. Ruth Gruber, who had brought the refugees here to this country. 1944, the refugees were recruited in Rome, Italy, went to Naples, came by convoy to the United States, and came here to Fort Ontario, which was vacant at the time. President Roosevelt felt that this was a suitable place to bring 984 refugees. They arrived here by train, not knowing where they were going, arrived here in the morning, and were greatly disturbed when they saw chain link fence with barbed wire on top and military police at the gate. They screamed aboard the train and they said, "We're being sent to a concentration camp." And Dr. Gruber and some of her associates quieted them all down, and they said, no, this was not true. And people came to the train and began offering them milk and fruit through the train windows, and everything changed. They were very, very impressed because everything was waiting for them, all done alphabetically, and they lived in old army barracks that weren't in very good shape, made into little apartments, usually 2 rooms, and with a toilet at the end of the barracks, like army barracks are. But they were happy to be here. One woman cried when she saw the apartment, and Dr. Gruber said, "Why are you crying? It's Spartan, but at this time it's the best we can do." And she said, "I'm crying because I haven't seen sheets on a bed in 5 years, and I'm excited." They were impressed that everybody was assigned to an apartment, and what meager luggage they had all arrived, and so they were very pleased to be here. Was very, very active here because the refugees, according to the way they came to this country, were supposed to return to Europe at the end of the war. They had nothing to go back to at the end of the war. Joseph Smart was the director, the administrator for the Refugee Center. And he was speaking to groups of local people and refugees about what was going on here. And there was a group of citizens in the United States that lobbied to get them to stay here. Eleanor Roosevelt, she came to Oswego with the Congressional Committee and lobbied to allow the refugees to stay. The thing that's fascinating, and most people don't know, this is the only refugee center in the United States during all of World War II. We had ships turned away with Jewish refugees that were not allowed to land, and this was it, 982. 874 were Jews. The rest were assorted Christians. And this is it. And most people don't know this. It's a very small part of American history, but most important, you know, this is it. This is all. The bad part is, this is all we did. We brought roughly 1,000. We have people here who were scientists helping. One of the people here helped develop on the team developing the CAT scan. We had another person here who worked dismantling atomic weapons in Russia for the American government. We've had people who, doctors and lawyers who've made their mark in this country with less than 1,000 people. What could we have done had we opened our gates to more?
në opinion